Dear guests, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Welcome to the Emirates Airline Festival of Literature. Today, I am Nawal Shawi, and I will be conducting the session. I'm very proud and happy to have our guests today, and guess what? We're lucky. It's the first time ever I've been conducting a session where I have the writer, the translator of the book we have been reading, and the translator of this session who will translate for the writer. So give me a round of applause to our guests. I'll introduce our guests one by one. Of course, I will start with Kyung-Suk Shin, who is the author of our book today, I Went to See My Father. Shin is the author of 18 works, including 7 novels, 8 story collections, and 3 essay collections. She's one of the South Korean most widely read and acclaimed novelists. Her bestseller, Please Look After Mom, sold more than 2 million copies in Korea and got translated into more than 30 languages and sold in 34 countries. She was both the first woman and the first Korean to be honored at the Man Asian Literacy Prize, and is also the recipient of the Young Artist Award from the Korean Ministry of Culture. She is the Korean only New York Times bestseller. Her writing is characterized by a profound and unique point of view focusing on the human mind, featuring colorful prose, utilizing symbolism and metaphor that captures the minute details of life's subtle trials and tribulations. I can go on and on and on, but I would like to give the floor to our guests before the time goes up. Now, I would like to introduce you the translator of I Went to See My Father. Let me find my page. Anton Hur, welcome. Anton Hur is a Korean citizen. He was born in Stockholm. He was raised in various countries, including Hong Kong, Ethiopia, and Thailand, before settling in Korea. He studied law and psychology at Korea University and French at Korea National Open University before pursuing a master's degree in English literature at Seoul National University. He began as a translator full-time in 2018, beginning with Kyung-Suk Shin, the court dancer. He manages the literary translation group Smoking Tigers. Hur is a writer and translator who is now living in Seoul. I'll go to Selina, who is, yes, I will keep you short, don't worry. Very modest, Selina Lee. Is a globally recognized executive and career coach, lawyer, writer, and podcast host. And I stop here. Okay, fine. Now, I would like to start, of course, with our writer. And I'm not going to start, I would like just to say it will be a conversation, not a question answers. So we'll go with the flow. And if we miss any information you don't have during the session, we will give you 20 minutes, even more, to ask your own questions. I will be happy to hear your questions and answer them. Shin, I would like you, first of all, before we start, I would like to hear you read for me the first short part of your book in Korean.
I went to see my father. 이 부분은 제가 이 소설을 쓰게 한 맨 첫 부분이기도 하지만 이 소설을 주제를 말해주는 대목이기도 합니다.
The first part that I'm going to read is not only the very first part of the novel, but it actually is the whole theme of the novel.
그래서 아까 여기 첫 부분을 낭독해 주는 게 어떠냐고 사회자께서 부탁했을 때 매우 반가웠어요.
So when the moderator asked me to read that part, I was very, very pleased.
한국 책이 없는데 마침 번역가께서 PDF를 가지고 있어가지고 이 부분을 저한테 얼른 패스해 줘가지고 여러분에게 낭독할 수 있어서 기쁩니다.
Anton, the translator, happened to have a PDF copy of my Korean version of the book, so I'm really happy to be able to read it to you right now.
언젠가 내가 아버지에게 당신에 대한 글을 쓰겠다고 하자 아버지는 내가 무엇을 했다고 했다. 아버지가 한 일이 얼마나 많은데요. 내가 옹수하자 아버지는 한숨을 쉬듯 내뱉었다. 나는 아무 일도 하지 않았다. 살아냈을 뿐이다 하고.
Now we'll hear the same part that was read by the writer from her translator. So her, to you, to read the same section in English for us, please.
Some time ago, when I told my father I would write about him, he replied, "But what have I ever done with this life?" "You've done so much," I said. "I've done nothing at all," he sighed. "All I've done is live through it."
So this is how the book starts, and I would like to read for you also how the other book, because I happen to read both, I'm just going to tell you how the second book started. And, you know, it is about, the first sentence of the book, you know, who got, it's been 1 week since mother went missing. So from the first sentence of the book, you usually get the theme of what is going to happen that goes along the story. So we come back to, I went to see my father, and I would like to ask the first question to our writer today is it's the first time I read a Korean writer. And shame on me. And I discovered a very strong storytelling behind what was written in these two books I have read. So I would like to ask our writer today, Shin, Korea has a strong storytelling. And the tradition is, is growing with a very strong storytelling. My question to you is, in your long career, you have been the first Korean writer who has been, to me, the way I see it, the ambassador of the Korean writers abroad, because you were the first writer to be translated and to go out of Korea. So the question is, having read definitely most of the new generation writers in Korea, of coming out of Korea, what do you think of their style of the writing and of the literature?
나는 한국에서 그 오래된 작가이지만 여러분들 앞에서는 신인 작가이기 때문에 그 다른 젊은 작가들에 대해서 얘기해달라고 하면 약간 좀 당황합니다.
I've been a writer for a very long time in Korea, but I'm a new writer in front of all of you, so I feel a little awkward when I was asked this question.
한국에는 아주 많은 소설들이 있는데 그 역사와 함께 소설이 발전을 해왔다고 할까요? 그런 많은 걸 겪었기 때문에 시대에 따라서 정말 소설의 분위기가 많이 다릅니다.
In Korea has a long history of literature, but as the history has evolved, the novels and the literature has evolved. So depending on the generation you're talking about, I think it really differs in its style and also the topics.
한국 소설은 제 윗세대의 소설은 전쟁 이야기를 많이 했고
The novelists before my generation talked a lot about the war, the Korean War.
우리 세대는 그 전쟁이나 어떤 혁명이나 이런 거로부터 약간 자유롭게 개인적인 이야기를 할 수 있는 세대였고요.
The writers of my generation were more or less free from the war and also talking about the revolution, so we were free to talk about our personal stories.
지금 젊은 작가들은 아주 자유롭게 상상력을 자유롭게 쓰는 그런 세대입니다. 그래서 저도 가끔 이게 한국 소설인지 어디 애국 소설인지 잘 모를 정도로 한국 사회에 대한 그런 그 유세대들이 가지고 있는 그런 빛이 전혀 없이 아주 자유롭게 많은 소설들을 쓰고 있습니다.
The young writers of the Korea today are free even more to write about their own imagination. So sometimes when I read their work, I wonder if they're from Korea, if they're Korean writers, and they are free from like the debts that we felt like we owed the Korea to write about.
환타지 소설 그리고 SF 소설 또 개인적인 어떤 사랑이나 슬픔에 대한 소설 이런 소설들이 아주 많이 쓰여지고 있습니다.
They write about fantasies and science fiction and also their love and grief from their personal lives.
제 생각에는 한국 문학 속에 문학이 뒤늦게 이렇게 많은 사람들로부터 관심을 받는 이유는 아마 지금 쓰고 있는 젊은 작가들의 소설이 이 현대의 생활과 아주 밀접하게 서로 관계를 맺고 있기 때문이라고 그렇게 생각하고 있습니다.
I think the fact that there's a lot of international interest in Korean literature is that because a lot of the young writers are writing about the topics that are very much of interest to the people living in the current and the modern world.
한국 문학이라는 보물 창고를 잘 열어보시고 좋은 작가들을 많이 사랑해 주기를 부탁합니다.
Hope you're able to go on the treasure hunt, which is the Korean literature, and then hopefully you'll be able to discover new, young, amazing writers from Korea.
Definitely, yes, hopefully. I go to the next point regarding the style and of the books you write. Yesterday, I was in a very interesting sessions here at the festival. We were talking about memories. And one of my colleagues who was hosting said something quite interesting. We were speaking about good memories and sad memories, happy memories and sad memories. And then he said something quite interesting that I had never thought about. He said, anyway, whether we evoke happy memories or sad memories, we are sad, evoking both. And we were like, why? And he said, because anyway, the sad ones, thinking of them make us sad. And the happy ones make us sad because we miss those happy memories. Now I come to Shin's style of writing and the two books I have read. I would like to ask Shin, why do your book evoke sadness when we read them?
여기 있는 분들도 그렇게 느낄 거라고 생각하는데요. 사실 슬픔이라는 감정은 아름다운 거하고 이렇게 맞닿아 있다고 생각합니다.
I think you may relate to what I'm about to tell you, but I think the feeling of sadness is deeply interwoven with something that's really beautiful.
우리가 아주 아름다운 것을 바라볼 때 오직 기쁘기만 한 건 아니에요.
When we're looking at something very, very beautiful, we're not just happy.
그 아름다움을 깊이 이렇게 들여다보고 있으면 자기도 모르게 마음이 슬퍼질 거예요.
When you stare at something that's really, really beautiful and look really deeply into it, you may notice some emotions of sadness.
아마 그것은 제 경험으로 얘기해 보자면 그 순간이 영원히 계속되지 않을 거라는 걸 알고 있기 때문에 그럴 겁니다.
I think as I'm kind of reflecting from my own personal reflections and thoughts, I think it's because I feel that way because I know that that moment will not last forever.
마치 죽음처럼
Like death,
곧 사라질 거라는 것을 이 아름다운 순간이 곧 사라질 거라는 걸 알기 때문에 슬픔이 바로 이어서 슬픈 감정을 동시에 느낀다고 생각합니다.
I think just like that you know that these beautiful moments will disappear soon. And I think that's why you're able to experience this feeling of sadness or grief at the same time.
예를 들어서 아주 어린아이가 잠들어 있는 모습을 이렇게 보고 있으면 처음에는 정말 잘 자고 있구나, 아름답구나 그렇게 생각하지만 계속 바라보고 있으면 어쩐지 좀 슬퍼지지 않나요? 저는 그렇던데요. 네.
As if when you're staring at a young child that's in deep sleep, at first you might think, oh wow, here she's really sleeping well. But then when you're staring at him or her, then you might feel this feeling of sadness.
제 소설 속에서 기억과 어떤 슬픔의 관계는 결국은 그 아름다운 것을 불멸화시키려는 그런 과정이기도 합니다.
I think as I am talking about the memory and its relationship with sadness or grief, that I think it's kind of my attempt at trying to memorialize the beautiful moment.
곧 사라지고 말 것을 내 소설 속에 언어로 이렇게 채집해 놓듯이 그 순간을 써놓는 것, 그것이 저는 제가 할 수 있는 불멸이라고 생각해요.
As if through my own language that I'm kind of making sure that this beautiful moment is trapped or is forever in this novel. And I think that's what I can do as a writer.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to pinpoint something in the story. Most of us here are people who have been away from our families for a while, sometimes, years and years. And, we have departed, we have left, which is now very common for the new generation. But for my generation, it was something it depends where you come from, of course. But let's say that you go away from your family, mother and father, and then you see them once in a while when you have time and you go and visit. Then what really was striking me in the book is that you had to go back home and dig into your father's letters and start really discovering your father and knowing your father through other people, friendships, what he has done in his life. So when you read a book like this, personally, when I read it, you wonder, do we really know our parents? And mainly when I read the other book, which is, you're holding my book, right? Yeah, I went to see. I went to see my father. Is not this one. When Please Look After Mom. This mother that you have been away from, but who has worked all her life to make you go away and study and have a different life from yours. Did you have time to know her? And then you go into I went into a kind of panic saying, oh my God, I mean, my parents are growing old and I don't think I know them so much. So I would like you please, Shay, to tell us a little bit about this discovery of the parent, of the father, and how happy or how painful was it for you to discover your father through others?
제가 어떻게 공교롭게도 엄마를 부탁해라는 작품을 쓰고 그다음에 물론 10년이라는 세월이 지난 후에 아버지에게 갔었어라는 작품을 또 쓴 작가이기도 한데요.
I wrote a book called Please Look After Mom. And after 10 years later, I wrote about my father, about a novel about a father. I went to see my father.
이 두 작품을 쓰면서 물론 이 작품 속에 아버지나 어머니가 완전하게 내 개인의 아버지와 어머니만은 아니라고 생각하게 되었습니다.
And of course, in my novels, I don't think that the fathers or the characters in the book are just only my mother and my father.
우리가 이제 보통 부모에 대해서 특히 엄마라고 부르는 그 어머니에 대해서 생각할 때 그냥 엄마는 엄마로 태어난 사람으로 이렇게 생각하죠.
When we think about our own parents, especially our moms, we just tend to think, oh, my mom's just a mom. She was born as a mom.
그리고 아버지에 대해서는 굉장히 이야기하기를 어려워합니다. 어떤 존재인지를 잘 모르겠다고 느껴요. 저 자신은 아버지가 어떤 분인지 어떤 인생을 살아왔는지 잘 모르는 그런 경우가 많다고 생각합니다.
And I think we often don't really know our father, what kind of person he is, or what kind of life he had. At least for me, that was the case. I felt like I really didn't really know my father or his life.
근데 어차피 그 두 존재는 그러니까 처음부터 엄마이거나 아버지이거나 그러진 않았다는 거예요. 엄마가 되었고 아버지가 되었다는 거. 그걸 우리는 잊고 있죠.
But what's the fact is that they weren't always a mom and always a father. That at one point they became a mom and became a father. And I think this is the fact that we often forget.
아니요, 엄마나 아버지도 아주 어린 시절이 있고 청년 시절이 있고 그다음에 중년이 있고 이런 시절이 있었고 어떤 꿈은 꾸기도 하고 어떤 꿈은 이루지 못하기도 하고 이러면서 그런 인간이었다는 것을 잊어버리고 그냥 처음부터 엄마나 아버지로 태어난 사람 그렇게 느끼는 게 보통 그 자식들의 감정 아닌가 그렇게 생각합니다.
I think that we often forget that our moms and fathers, our parents had a childhood. They were once very little babies and children, and then they had their young lives when they were very youthful and when they were younger. Also, they went through the middle age and they had dreams, some which achieved and some they didn't get to, that they were humans. That they were not born as just moms and dads. And I think this is, as children, we often forget this fact.
이 두 작품을 쓰면서 저 개인도 나의 어머니 그리고 나의 아버지를 찾아가는 그런 과정이었습니다.
As I was working on my two novels, I think it was a journey to finding my own mother and father.
공통적으로 알게 된 것은 누구도 혼자서 성장할 수는 없다는 것이었습니다.
The common theme that I discovered through this journey was that nobody can grow up on their own.
우리가 성장하기 위해서 집을 떠나듯이 우리가 또 성장하기 위해서는 부모라는 그 두 존재의 어떤 시간을 갉아먹을 수밖에 없다는 것. 그것을 인정하고 그것을 찾아가는 과정이 이 두 소설 쓰기였다고 생각합니다.
I think we, as we grow up, we sometimes need to leave home, and also as children, as we grow up, we need to utilize or take away our parents' time, their own time, to be able to grow up and become a human being.
Thank you. Now I connect with the translation, and I'll come to you, her, in 2 seconds. When you give your work, Shin, to a translator, on what aspects are you very picky? And what are the aspects that you really are keen on having them translated properly?
여기 제 작품의 제 작품을 가장 많이 번역한 작가가 여기 안톤인데요. 저는 그냥 자유롭게 번역하게 그냥 가만히 있었고요. 왜냐하면은 그 번역이라는 게 사실 쓰기보다 원작자가 원작을 쓰는 것보다도 더 힘든 일이라고 저는 생각합니다. 그리고 그게 단순히 어떤 문장을 옮기고 이런 작업이 아니고 번역가가 번역을 할 때는 다시 탄생하는 그런 과정이라고 생각하기 때문에 그에게 완전한 자유를 주었습니다.
Well, Anton, who is the translator for the most amount of novels, is sitting right here. And I think that I gave him the freedom to write as he wished. I was just here and then let him do his own thing. And because I think actually translating work is often harder. It's actually harder than actually writing a novel because it's a process of rewriting. So I think that's why it's much more difficult.
그래서 책이 나오면 저는 안톤에게 가끔 이거는 안톤의 책이기도 하다라고 말했습니다.
So when the translated work is published, I often tell Anton that this is your book. This is your novel.
가끔 질문을 혹시 하면은 굉장히 정성껏 답을 하고 싶은데 그런 질문하는 일이 없었습니다.
If we were to ask a question, I will do my very best to answer him as much as possible, but he doesn't really ask any questions.
네.
Fine. We're coming to you now. So I think it's the fact that you are not asking many questions for translating. You have been lucky to be from the same country, the same background. And I think this has made things a bit easier for you. Well, I would like to ask you, what were, in translating this book today, what did you find most challenging in the translation? Even if you are from Korea, I understand, all what Shin was talking about, but what were the challenging points that you found when you were translating?
I always say that a book is hard to translate if the writer is bad, because you have to compensate for the badness of their writing. Translating Kyung-Suk Shin is very easy. So because what she writes so clearly, and so her work is so emotionally resonant that I'm immediately convinced that I know exactly what she is saying, and I know exactly how she would want this to be in English. So it's actually not that I know she doesn't like it when I say it like this, but she's actually not that difficult to translate because she's a good writer. The hard part of translating this book in particular, this is kind of tragic comic, but in the copy editing process, our copy editor ruined the book. So how they did this was, this book does not distinguish between narration and spoken dialogue. There are no quotation marks. The only distinction made between the two is that the spoken dialogue is written very colloquially, and the written narration is written in a more narrative manner. So you have to get the tone just right between the two different lines, and there are no other demarcations and no other punctuations showing you where one begins and one ends. It's just, her talent as a writer, making that demarcation. And the copy editor put quotation marks on everything. And I had to go through every single line again, taking them out and redoing all of the punctuation as they appear in the Korean. Because for Kyung-Suk Shin, she is making a commentary, I believe, on how memory comes, like fiction comes from memory, and memory is a form of fiction. And she doesn't want the distinction between the two to be so clear. She wants you to really see that when we remember something, we are retelling a story, we are creating a story. And she also wants to show you that when we tell a story, we use a lot of our memories. So I believe that she wants you to see that, the relationship between storytelling and memory. And so it was very important for me that her distinction, her ambiguity remained in the text. So it was actually easy to do so because I just have to do exactly what she's doing. So very easy for me. It was fighting with the copy editor. That was the hardest part of translating this book.
이거 보세요. 그러니까 그 질문을 하지 않아도 제가 이렇게 행 갈라놓은 거, 따옴표 같은 거 쓰지 않는 것까지 다 챙겨주니까 네, 아주 만족하고 있습니다.
You see, I didn't even tell him what I wanted to do. He just knew exactly that. So that's why, yeah, it was easy to work with Anton.
제가 이제 또 이런 이야기 안톤이 듣기 싫어할지도 모르는데 이 두 작품 말고 또 니진이라는 제 작품이 있습니다. 니진이라는 그 작품이 있습니다.
There's another novel that Anton translated called Lijin.
그건 현대 소설이 아니고 지금부터 100년 전에 한국이라는 이름이 아닌 조선이라는 이름을 가지고 있던 시대가 배경인 소설입니다.
It was translated as The Court Dancer when it was translated into English. And this is about a time in Korea when Korea was not called Korea, it was called Joseon Dynasty.
그 소설을 안톤이 번역을 하고 또 책으로 출간이 돼서 제가 미국에 있는 어떤 대학에 가서 그 낭독회를 할 기회가 있었습니다.
So Anton translated that novel and then it was published into English. So I had a chance to go visit the US and then do a book tour and do a book event at a university in the US.
어떤 독자가 저한테 사인을 이렇게 받으러 와서 저에게 하는 말이
A reader came to me and then she was asking for my autograph in the book and she said,
이 책이 번역 작품인지 몰랐습니다.
She said, I didn't know this was translated work.
그러니까 그만큼 매끄럽게 번역 작품이라는 걸 모를 정도로 그렇게 읽었다는 거예요.
So I think that shows that how well it was translated, that it didn't feel like a translation, that it was just written into English. So I think it goes to show Anton's writing, the translating ability.
네, 정말 그때는 이거 100년 전 역사이기 때문에 안톤이 내게 질문할 게 많을 거야 이렇게 생각했는데 정말 단 한 번도 질문하지 않았어요. 그런데 그렇게 번역 작품인지도 모를 정도로 그렇게 잘 번역을 해준 거예요.
That novel was about Korea about 100 years ago. So I thought, oh, for sure, Anton's going to have lots of questions about this work. But he never asked a single question. But yet he did such a fabulous job and making it as if it's like written in English.
그러니까 안톤의 책이기도 하죠.
So it's also Anton's book. That's why I say that.
Right. Anton, these are the most beautiful, rewarding words that you could get as a translator.
For the record, though, with Court Dancer, which was also very easy to translate, I did look up the historical references, but every time I did, they were completely accurate. I looked up every single date, every single name that she mentions, and they were all backed up. So she had already done the heavy lifting and all of the research. So there was nothing to ask.
I want to come to you, Anton, about what drew you to working in translation. You've studied law, psychology, and how do you find translating fiction in particular?
I love literature, basically, and I wanted to be a writer, and my novel is coming out this summer. I wanted to figure out a way to work in publishing, and I already loved Korean literature, and I was already a huge fan of Kyung-Suk Shin. There are photos of me meeting her at book events. And when I showed Kyung Sik Shin, like, oh, do you remember when we first met? And she's like, I have a lot of fans. So, I mean, she does remember. She does remember. But I'm amazed that she does. Anyway, so for me, it was I wanted to work in publishing, and I was already a translator of, I was a legal translator mostly. And so I thought, hey, so why don't I go into writing this way? Because there are many ways of becoming a writer these days. You can get a MFA, degree program. You can, do like a lot of internet writing. There are a lot of Instagram poets who eventually go on to publish books. Like there's so many routes into writing now, and translation kind of like seemed like one of them. And I don't know, I just really, really fell in love with literary translation. And I got to work with so many great like authors and books and publishers and editors, except that one copy editor. Like I got to work with so many great people that it's been a really great journey.
Okay, so I just want to ask you a question. It's a tricky one. If you don't want to answer, you're free not to. Among the 4 books that have been translated, how can I put it? How do you compare the translations to yours?
Oh, you mean among the 4 translators that have translated Kyung Sik Shin? Okay, this is fun. Well, of course, I think I'm the best. But you have to realize Kyung Sik Shin is Korea's Elena Ferrante. She is, one of our most important writers. So she's had the most important, like, top translators, like Ha Yun-jung, Sora Kim Russell, and Chi Young Kim, who did Please Look After Mom. Chi Young Kim is an iconic Korean translator who was shortlisted for the International Booker Prize last year for her work with Chun Myung-kwan, The Whale. And so when I was, me being the 4th translator to come in to work with Kyung Sik Shin, I was of course very nervous because, 3 icons have come before me. How do I handle the pressure? But again, with Kyung Sik Shin, I feel like I was very confident translating her work because her work is so good that I knew that her excellence would like shine through the flaws of the translation. Like when you have window blinds and then you open the window blinds of it and you know how the sunlight shines through. So no matter how bad, if I'm window blinds, I know that, people will somehow understand through the excellence of her work what she's trying to say. So I thought, well, like how can you mess up? Like how badly can I mess up Kyung Sik Shin? I can only mess it up so badly, right? Because, the source material is so great. So I was always very confident when it came to working with her.
Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I don't want to monopolize this conversation. I would love to give the floor now to the audience. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. So my question is for Anton. So who choose who? Does the translator choose the writer, or the writer chooses the translator? And what are some of the elements or themes? Sorry. What are some of the elements and themes that makes you say yes to translate certain books?
Yeah, great question. It happens both ways. It depends on, I guess, the situation. With Kyung Sik Shin, I had to audition. And I had to fight different translators to be the one to translate her next book. And because with Kyung Sik Shin, again, if you have an opportunity to be in that fight, then you take it as a translator because she is one of our greatest writers. So, everyone wants to translate her. So I was absolutely determined to compete and win, and did. Sometimes I will discover a writer where, for example, Bora Chung is a good example because she was not famous in Korea. She was not a 등단 작가. She did not go through the establishment system of becoming a writer. And she was very out of the mainstream. But I just loved her language so much that I was very confident that this would work in English. And so a lot of conviction went into that. And when I applied for the Penheim and won a Penheim grant for Bora, I was like, oh, okay, I knew I was correct. But it's so nice to have other people say the same thing. And so I think it's sometimes an author comes to you and you're like, well, I don't know if I can do this author, but I have a feeling that we might, jive. I'm doing a fantasy book called Blood of the Old Kings by Kim Sung-il. And I don't do fantasy, but when I read his work, I was like, oh, I don't know how to translate this, but I think it'll be very, very fun to figure out how to do it. And so it was like a challenge to myself. So that's an author that came to me, and then I said yes, and then I translated, and I think we came up with a really interesting book. So yeah, it really depends on, it's very intuitive. Like sometimes you just know that a writer is going to work, and sometimes they come to you because they just know that you'll be the right person for the work. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's really the publisher that chooses the translators. So yeah, I mean, it's great if you have a relationship with the author, but that's not always the case.
Hi, my question is to the author. This is from your book, I'll Be Right There. Your author's note said, we may be the protagonists of tragedy, but we are also the heroes of our most beautiful and thrilling experiences. That really stayed with me. I read it way back in 2018. I just want to know what inspired you to write the book, I'll Be Right There.
Can you read that first?
나를 찾는 전화벨이
네.
그거를 쓰시게 된 계기를
한국 제목을 알고 계시네요? 해소.
You know the Korean title of the book, I'll Be Right There?
어디선가
It looks like
나를 찾는
어디서,
전화벨이
yeah.
울리고
Because the literal translation is like there's a phone ringing somewhere. And I think you talked about that, right? So she's like, do you know the Korean title of the book?
Not really. I have read the translation.
네,
actually.
번역된 작품을 읽었다고 해요.
아일베이어를 쓰게 된 동기를 얘기해달라는 거예요. 그거는 제가 그 소설이 네 명의 젊은이의 우정과 사랑에 대한 이야기입니다.
That the novel I'll Be Right There is a story of four young friends and about their love and friendship.
이런 얘기가 어떻게 들릴지 모르겠는데요. 그때 제가 그 작품을 쓸 당시에는 한국의 모든 젊은 친구들이 일본의 무라카미 하루키 작품들을 읽고 있었습니다.
Not sure how you might receive this, what I'm about to say, but at the time when I was working on this novel, most of the young people in Korea was reading a Japanese writer, Murakami Haruki.
그래서 우리 한국 독자들이 너무한데 이렇게 생각을 했습니다.
I was a little sad.
그래서 우리 한국 젊은 독자들에게 어떤 위로와 꿈과 인간과 인간이 서로 어떻게 관계를 맺고 어떻게 미래로 나아가는지 그리고 슬픔 속에 빠지는지 이런 과정을 이렇게 쓰고 싶었어요.
So I wanted to write a book about for the young people in Korea about their dreams and their loves and how they develop relationship and how they move into the future. So I wanted to write about that.
제 꿈도 굉장히 컸던 거죠.
So my dream was really big at the time too.
모두 하루키에게 빠져있는 독자들을 내 소설 속으로 좀 데려와야겠다. 그런
Because it was my attempt at inviting Murakami Haruki's readers to read my own novel.
그런데 이 마음 지금 생각하면 마음이 제 마음도 조금 아픈데요. 우리 한국의 80년대라는 시대가 너무 고통스럽고 불행한 시대였어요. 정치적으로. 네.
It hurts. It's hurtful for me to talk about this, but the 80s, 1980s in Korea was a deeply painful period for everyone who went through it. It was very, very challenging, and it was unfortunate time for political reasons.
제 청춘 시대이기도 했고요. 그때가.
That was also when I was young. That was my youthful days, my younger period.
예, 그 시대를 배경으로 그 내 젊은이의 행로를 찾아가다가 보니까 처음 오도하고는 다르게 정말 기쁨과 사랑을 주는 그런 소설을 쓰고 싶었는데 죽음에 대한 이야기가 되었습니다.
And as I was writing about, so this novel sets the stage in the 1980s, the politically turbulent time in South Korea. And as I was writing about four friends and about their journey, and I intentionally in the beginning, I intend to write about their love and happiness. But then as I kept writing, I realized I was writing about death.
그래도 한국의 많은 독자들이 그 죽음에 대한 이야기가 되고 많은 그 소설을 많이 읽어줬어요.
But thankfully, a lot of the readers in South Korea did read the novel that ended up talking about death.
어디선가 나를 찾는 전화벨이 울리고라는 제목이 영어에서는 I will be right there. 내가 그쪽으로 갈게라는 그런 제목으로 바뀌어서 출간되었습니다.
In the actual Korean title of the book is, if I were to literally translate it, it would say something like, somewhere there's a phone ringing. But then when it was translated into English, it was translated as, I'll be right there.
그 I will be right there's 제가 한국판 소설 속의 마지막 챕터의 소제목이기도 했습니다.
The I'll be right there is actually the title of the subchapter at the very end, and that was a title, and I think they took that to make it the English title.
여기 와서 그 소설 이야기를 하게 될 줄은 꿈에도 몰랐지만
I really didn't expect to be talking about that novel here,
너무 좋습니다.
but thank you. You made me very happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's why you were asking, do you know the title? Does my work? Yeah, that's why you were asking, do you know the Korean title? Fine. Yes, next. Any other? Oh, okay.
안녕하세요. 제 이름은 하나 있습니다. 만나서 반가워요. 내 질문은, my question is, with your book, Please Look After Mom, and then obviously this continuation, I went to see my father. You talk on like really deep topics about who your parents truly were before they were your parents. And I saw a recent K-drama, Twinkling Watermelon, 반짝이는 Watermelon, and it touches on exactly that journey of them discovering who their parents really are before they were their parents. So for me, I was disconnected from my family for 20 years because of genocide and other reasons, and then others have other ways and why they don't dig into family secrets. So my question to you is, in a generation that is getting increasingly disconnected from our elders and our parents, was there a moment in both the books where you suddenly thought, I need to know my parents, I need to know them now, and I'm quite happy to dig into secrets? And how did you ask like really sensitive questions? Because for you and your parents, it was a really sensitive time in Korea. So yeah, that's my question. And then for Anton, how do you translate from English, or from the Korean to the English when Korean is changing and you can see in Korean cinema that a lot of the subtitles are incorrect? So how do you navigate that?
Thanks.
이게 부모를 찾아가는 그 내용인데 부모 그 엄마나 아버지에 대한 그 시간이 나하고 깊이 연결이 되어 있기 때문에 가능한 거죠.
So the novels is about discovering our parents, but I am very interconnected to my mother and father, so I think that's why it was possible.
그러니까 결국 부모의 어떤 시간들을 찾아보는 것은 내가 어떤 사람인지를 알게 되는 그런 시간이기도 했습니다.
So discovering the time of the parents, looking within their journeys and how they spent time was a way for me to discover myself.
그래서 이 아버지에게 갔어서에는 아버지 아주 평범하게 보이는 그 아버지를 찾아가는 과정이 한국 어떤 현대사를 찾아서 다시 살펴보는 그런 과정이기도 했고요.
For the novel, I went to see my father as I was writing about a very maybe a normal father of the Korea at that time. It was a way to write and to discover the modern history of Korea at the time.
그 아버지가 그 전쟁이나 혁명이나 우리 한국 사회에서 이루어낸 어떤 민주주의나 그 시간들을 이렇게 통과해 나오는 방식을 살펴보는 시간이기도 했어요.
It was a way for me to see how a father of those generation went through the war and then to also the revolution and also through the democracy of Korea. So it was very interconnected.
그런 아버지를 나는 어떻게 대해 왔는가 그거에 대한 어떤 자책의 시간이기도 했고요.
Also, it was a moment of feeling very guilty because I was reflecting on how I've been interacting with the father who went through those times.
어머니도 마찬가지입니다.
Also, the same for my mom as well.
이게 엄마를 부탁해는 첫 문장에서부터 엄마가 실종되는 그런 소설인데요.
Same thing for the book, Please Look After Mom. From the very beginning, the novel starts with the mom going missing.
우리가 그 엄마라는 존재를 딛고 성장을 해왔으면서 사실 내 인생 속에서 엄마를 싹 잊어버리고 살아왔다는 그런 소설이기도 합니다. 그래서 엄마가 실종되고 그 실종된 후에 나는 어떤가? 과연 나에게 엄마가 없었다면 나는 어떤 존재였단 말인가? 그런 걸 쓴 작품이기도 해요.
For the book, Please Look After Mom, it was a book about how we sometimes we use our moms as the stepping stone. And then that's how we become who we are and we grow. But we forget that's the role that our moms played for us. And when the mom goes missing, then we have to kind of figure out, well, who am I without a mother? So that was what the book was about.
그리고 그냥 마지막으로 한마디만 더 하자면 그 엄마를 부탁해의 그 마지막 엄마 입장으로서 얘기하는 그 마지막 챕터가 있는데 그 마지막 문장이 이런 것입니다. 엄마는 알고 있었을까? 나에게도 일생 동안 엄마가 필요했다는 것을 이해해요.
And if I may, just one more thing. There's a chapter in the novel, Please Look After Mom. It's the last chapter, where it's written from the perspective of the mother. And the last sentence is, did mom know that I too needed a mom all my life?
그 말을 일생을 엄마로 다 살고 난 사람이 하는 말이라는 것.
And that is what a mom who lived her life as a mom her whole life says that.
엄마도 엄마가 필요했던 사람이라는 것.
That mom also needed a mom too.
그런데 우리는 모든 걸 그 엄마의 어깨에 내려놓고 엄마를 돌보지 않았다는 것.
But we let everything, all the burdens rest on the mom's shoulders, but we didn't take care of our own moms.
이게 어떻게 통역이 될지 모르겠지만 어떤 사회 제도라든지 모든 게 엄마 역할을 대신 해줘야 된다는 것, 엄마가 아니라 그런 이야기를 하고 싶어서 썼던 작품이기도 합니다.
I'm not sure how this will be translated, is what she said. That not just moms, but a lot of the societal systems, the systems that exist in our society, needs to play the role of the mom, of the mother. So that's why I wrote this novel.
Great. My son quickly
Um,
answer that,
yeah.
because I have
Sure. So I think the biggest difference between translating from Korean to English is the word order, because our verb comes at the end. So Korean has built-in suspense because the verb is the most important part of the sentence. And so when you're reading it in Korean, you have to wait until the end of the sentence for like the twist to happen. But in English, the verb is the second word. And so quite often in English, the important part, from the fiction writer's perspective, the most important part of the sentence is often put into the, what do you call this, the object phrase at the end. And so a lot of times when I'm translating, I keep that in mind. I try to preserve the image order, the twist order, so that what originally appears as the verb in the Korean, I change it into the object. It's like a little trick that you kind of learn how to do if you translate enough books. For subtitlers, I am very sympathetic to them because they have a very tough job. And I'm not even just like talking about like the labor conditions, which are really, really bad, but also just the fact that they have so many restraints. Korean unpacks like, 4 Korean words turns into like 10 English words. So they have a lot of difficulty working within that tiny little space that is like the subtitle space. So I'm very, very sympathetic to how they do it, but I am very, very heartened that subtitlers are getting much better these days, and there's some really excellent subtitling going on nowadays.
We have time for one more question. Then I come to you. Yeah, we'll be very fast.
I'm gonna speak in Korean because I'm Korean. 이렇게 제가 10년 정도 제 친구랑 이제 이렇게 UAE에 살고 있는데, 신경숙 작가님께서 오신다는 얘기를 듣고 너무 반가워서 한가름에 달려왔고요. 와주셔서 너무 감사합니다. 제가 드리고 싶은 질문은 주변에 이제 여러 가지의 어떤 이야기 소재들이 있을 텐데, 이 이야기를 써야겠다고 마음을 어떻게 먹게 되시는 과정, 어느 계기 이런 게 좀 궁금합니다. 어떤 식으로 결정을 하시고 글을 쓰게 되시는지.
I'll translate
Serena,
that question.
please.
Yes. So I've been living in the UAE for about 10 years, and I'm really delighted and excited that you're here, and thank you so much for coming. My question to you is, I'm sure there's many, many different topics to write about, but what is the process that looks like when you choose a topic, and what motivations or what factors play a factor in terms of you deciding which topics to write about?
그냥 엄마를 부탁해 같은 경우에는 제가 16살 때 엄마하고 함께 이렇게 기차를 타고 서울이라는 곳으로 떠나오던 밤에 내가 언젠가 작가가 되면 저 고단해 보이는 엄마에 대한 이야기를 써야겠다 이렇게 생각했던 게 동기이고요.
For Please Look After Mom, when I was 16 years old, I left my home in the suburban South Korea to go to Seoul, and I was riding the train with my mom, who looked very, very exhausted. So I thought to myself that one day when I become a writer, I will write about my mom, who looks very, very tired, very exhausted.
그로부터 한 7년, 8년인가 후에 서울에 와서 작가가 되었는데 거의 20년 동안 그 약속을 지키지 못했고
And I became a writer about 7 or 8 years since that moment. But for about 20 years, I didn't keep that promise.
그건 엄마라는 존재에 상투적이지 않게 접근하기가 너무 힘들어서였어요.
And the difficulty was the fact that I just didn't want to write a cliche type of a writing about mom and how to approach it differently. That was a big challenge. So that's why I couldn't write it for about 20 years.
그 작품은 그때 약속을 지키는 심정으로 썼던 작품입니다.
And so that novel was my way of keeping that promise at that moment.
아버지에게 갔어서라는 작품을 그냥 얘기로 아까 I will be like 때는 했으니까 한다면 제 개인적인 아버지가 어쩐지 곧 우리 가족과 작별을 하게 될 것 같다라는 그런 예감이 들었던 어느 해에 작가로서 내가 할 수 있는 일은 아버지 인생을 제대로 귀 기울여서 들어주는 그런 사람이 되고 싶은 마음으로 썼던 작품입니다.
I went to see my father. I felt like my dad maybe the time has come that my father may pass away soon. So, as a writer, what I could do was to look within his life and to think about his life and be able to pay attention, really listen closely to his life and his experiences, and that's why I wrote that book.
Great. We have to come to the end. I'm sorry to cut you off. This session, we are going beyond time. I'm sorry for your question, but you will meet the writer at the signing, and I promise you she will answer your question. Well, that brings us to the end of this session. But before you head off to the book signing, there is a book signing, right? Yes, at the lobby. You will find the writer at the lobby to sign your books. I would like to thank you for being here. Thank you very much for this beautiful session. Thank you to our audience. Thank you for being here and joining us. I would like to thank the AV team, the volunteers, the translators who have been, thank you, Selena, for having translated this. Our sponsor, our parent organization, of course, Emirates Literature Foundation, and our sponsors for this session, who are Dubai Duty Free. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Noelle.